and welcome to another episode of the Hanukkah Erotica Book Club. I'm Raizel, and I'm joined by my stepsister and co-host, Malya.
Hi,
Mal.
Hello.
Hi. I'm in a new room today.
I was going to ask, where are you? I don't recognize the background.
I am in the room I showed you that I said this would be your room if you guys stayed over.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. New laptop.
Why are you in that room?
New laptop, new setup. Last
Great.
week I was just trying something new.
Great. I'm liking it.
Um,
Saturday night continues to be a winner for me, by the way.
Yeah, for
Shavua
sure.
Tov. William said I said too many Shavua Tovs in the last episode, but I'm saying it again.
Shavua Tov and disagree. No, it was great. It's great then. It's great now. And about a minute ago, before we started recording, William offered you a seltzer, and it made me think. And then I just said I just had a yummy sip of a seltzer. You said what kind?
Mm-hmm.
I said blackberry bubbly.
Mm-hmm.
You said, how is that? I said, not my favorite. You said, what is your favorite?
This all happened.
I said, bubbly, mango. But then it got me thinking, I'm very curious your favorite seltzers, brands, flavors. I have a different favorite flavor for every brand, and you're seltzer drinkers, and I'm a seltzer drinker, and I'm curious what you like.
I'll say, I'm not a huge seltzer drinker. William, and actually all the men in this family, including the 2-year-old, love just plain seltzer. They'll drink it like it's water. That's their go-to. So we always have a liter bottle of just seltzer. And we're into, we get lime LaCroix.
Okay.
That's our Adirondack. That's our brand of choice for the plain seltzer. It's cheap, it's crisp, we like it.
It's crisp, yep.
And I like a lime LaCroix, are the flavor that I think we've agreed upon and has enough, I think, cohesive in agreement in the family that we get the 8-packs. So, but I'm not so familiar. I know people have a strong pro or con LaCroix.
For LaCroix,
opinions.
my favorite's tangerine.
I don't think I've ever had that.
It's delicious.
Oh,
Tangerine
okay.
LaCroix.
Okay.
Definitely
noted.
up there for me. Yeah, I like bubbly. Mango's really great. Polar.
I offered Daniella LaCroix, and she was like, "Oh, LaCroix."
What did she want? Polar?
Spindrift.
What did she want?
She wanted Spindrift. She
Oh,
said
she wanted-
Spindrift all the way.
Interesting,
She was-
but that has some actual juice. She wants a little bit of lime juice with her seltzer. That's different than
does
lime
it?
essence.
Didn't know that. Right, okay. Yeah, she was horrified by the thought of a LaCroix.
She wouldn't even drink it?
She refused it. Refused it altogether.
Interesting. See, I understand refusing lime only because lime flavors of things, to me, taste like tequila. Lime flavors have a flavor to me that tastes like that, but I don't like that taste. But just to refuse it, I don't think I'd refuse it. I still think I would drink it.
Right, I'm offering you a cold lime LaCroix out of my fridge. It takes
Delicious.
to refuse that. Come on.
But I asked.
She's a woman of strong opinions. I respect that.
Of course. Anyway, listeners, if you have favorite seltzers that you want to share, I have, I can keep going, but
what's your top flavor? What's your number one of everything?
Of anything, any seltzer flavor. Honestly,
if you could have one conjured right now, what would it be?
Mango bubbly right now.
Okay.
But I like Polar a lot. There's a really random flavor of Polar I love. Orange vanilla Polar seltzer. That is delicious.
My sister just had that in her house.
So good. Also, peach flavored seltzer, I love.
Mm-hmm.
Peach Polar in a bottle. I sometimes don't find it in a can. I feel like that's a bottle I see of Polar.
Polars are bottles in general, I think. Yeah.
But the orange vanilla, I have cans.
Interesting.
Anyway, okay, I think we maybe have hit our limit of number of minutes that we could do on this. I could do more. I'm not actually saying how minutes we could do on this. I mean that our
it's a whole
listeners
world.
will accept.
It's really a world. Yeah, no. We can leave it here, but yeah.
If I'm wrong and people want more, there's a lot I'm not saying because of how much I just have a lot of opinions.
We can space it out over the season.
Yeah, okay,
we can have a seltzer. We've had a Jonathan. We've had a Jonathan segment.
Yeah.
We can have a seltzer segment.
Okay, so for here, that's it. Although the last thing I want to say is, if you in your family like just a plain seltzer, have you considered the machine?
Right. So yeah, good question. We had a Soda Stream for a while, but then it was just getting those CO2 canisters and the
Yes.
making the seltzer and then predicting when you're going to need a new one to put it in so it's cold. It felt much more labor intensive than just like paying the $8.99 to Fresh Direct to deliver to my door 12 bottles of Adirondack.
Yeah.
So I
Say no
chose
more.
convenience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Well, 5 minutes and 25 seconds on seltzer.
Nice.
If people want more, please do tell us because we do have more to say.
If there's a seltzer brand that wants to sponsor us,
Please.
we're willing, more than willing.
That's
I do
correct.
want to segue though to the fact that you pointed out that you're in a new room. I just wanted to point out, because I know in the past we've had segments about our street finds our
Yes.
Park Slope street finds that you've appreciated. And I just wanted to point out that I'm wearing this white waffle shirt right now. And if you could see my bottom half, I'm wearing a matching white waffle long johns that were a street find that are very thick and luxurious and are like a size extra large that I suspect somebody put out because maybe they shrunk in the wash. They're 100% cotton, so they probably shrunk in the wash, but they just got shorter. So I think it was probably someone was like, okay, I don't want my my long johns for a 5 foot tall person, but I actually am loving 5 foot tall length extra large long johns, and it's all I'm wearing. It's literally all I'm wearing.
When you went stooping for these, what form were they in? A basket, straight on the floor, a bag? I think we need to know more. No judgment again. I've been dumpster diving, but tell us more.
They were hung on our fence. Like
hung on a fence.
Like they were not in anything. They were just draped over the fence.
Oh, not with a hanger, just draped.
Just draped over the fence. And, since I only wear them, they were fresh. They smelled fresh. I mean, I washed them.
I'm sure you washed before you wore them.
Of course. It seemed like they were freshly hung because we had been in and out of the building and we just, we hadn't seen them and then we did. So like someone had just put them there. They hadn't been lingering. And sometimes I do walk out, to put the garbage out wearing them and I'm just waiting for someone to be like, oh, hey, those are my long johns.
Okay, now interesting because about 7 minutes ago when William offered you the seltzer, he got up, got back down, said, sorry, everyone saw me in my long johns.
Yes. So William has been a longtime fan of the waffle long john and wears them just himself.
So you're just twinning coincidentally.
We're twinning.
He didn't get a pair for free also on the...
No. He ordered his Amazon Basics, he says. We're big Amazon Basics fans here. I feel like you are too.
Yeah, Amazon Essentials, undies, yes.
Yes, Essentials. Thank you. Yes, the undies are great. And he orders the long johns and matching shirts. So, but now, we're twinning. We're just like luxurious. So every episode from here on in might be me wearing the shirt.
I'm in a thermal type thing for the past couple of weeks also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a matching set too. PJs.
Great. Oh, great.
Yeah.
It looks a little velourish to me.
It's like a chenille. That's why. It's like a chenille,
nice.
waffly chenille.
Great.
Wow. Okay, happy for you about that. And also for anyone who wants to judge that Malya took PJs off a fence, I just want to say this. Imagine instead of just it being on a fence, draped over a fence in Brooklyn, that it's like you see a post in your Buy Nothing group and it's like, hey, I got these thermals, they were great, wore them once, washed them, they completely shrunk, they're probably about an extra small petite now, let me know if you want them, and people start posting, interested, and then one lucky person wins and you put them out. That's the same thing.
Totally.
That's just a little bit, in other societies and cultures more normalized. In Brownstone, Brooklyn, it's normal to just, throw it over the fence.
Thank you for translating that. I appreciate that. You're right.
Yeah.
Why it shouldn't be stigmatized, and
no.
I'm happy to do my part.
I posted a few things in my size the other day, took a photo of them on my couch.
Yeah.
Not a million, but a few people were interested. One lucky person won.
Great.
She picked it up instantly. Her husband was on his way home. My house was on the way. Picked it up from right outside. She was so excited.
So nice.
Yeah. Same thing. Right. Washed clothes that I've worn.
William's saying we make up for buying bottled seltzer by, getting free PJs, so it all works out.
Yeah, but then Amazon delivery, okay, it's...
Right,
You win some, you lose some.
Absolutely. There's a calculus there. Right, absolutely. True. You're right. It's complex.
Wait, anything to discuss before we dive in, other than obviously these very important topics, before we dive into this book, like last week, anything?
I have one important thing that I want to say in reflecting on our episode last week, which is we spent a lot of time, or whatever it was, 2 weeks ago, we spent a lot of time when we were discussing pride and preference, marveling over the from speak of the
Yeah.
characters and
Yeah.
how sort of extensive it was and how it permeated every sentence. I realized afterward, okay, so about 2 years ago, I was added to a WhatsApp group from my high school graduating
Oh, yep.
class.
You've told us about it. You've told us about it.
I realized in looking through it that everyone speaks in that exact same lingo. Like all the WhatsApps are lifted right out of Pride and Preference to the point that like I can't believe that these women are able to just text like this so effortlessly because you're in a WhatsApp group. I mean, you're not composing these texts. These are off the cuff. It's not like a book where somebody's thinking it through and trying to put in as many from terms as possible to be funny. These are busy women, all, our age,
Yeah.
sending off text, and they're full of, they sound exactly like the Pride and Preference characters. I wanted to read some. I mean, a lot of them happen to be about, unfortunately, people dying because it will be like, a
Oh, yeah. Oh,
teacher.
I get these also. So and so was nifter yesterday.
Yes, but then the
Yes.
responses are like, okay, this one responds. So our like a woman who was a teacher in our school, when we were all there 20 odd years ago, died. And like this one woman writes, may her neshama have an aliyah, wishing you
Yes.
arichas yamim. Will Mir Hashem keep her in mind in my tefillos and mitzvos tomorrow. Like,
That's what the
calm.
family chat is like.
But it's every sentence. Absolutely will keep in mind that Ezra Hashem. Her neshama should have an aliyah. Like it's all just like it's constant.
There's a lot of material here.
I could go through and read more. I mean, it's like the Haftorah for like it's just every sentence. The Levi is tomorrow. Yeah. The Menahel I got here also. Like it's
Menahel.
Because she was a principal. She was the vice principal of the school.
Right.
She was such an incredible Menahel. Yeah, it's lifted right out of that book.
Amazing.
So,
I was laughing at Pride and Parnassa so much.
that was a good moment of inspiration.
It really was. Great. Yeah, that episode cracked me up. I'm really glad we read it. And but big pivot.
Oh yeah. This is a whole different thing. Right, yes. Correct.
So I know I said this now 2 different times on this podcast, but for new listeners, who knows if someone's starting today for the first time. So basically, at the very beginning of this podcast, someone I know at a party recommended that I read One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. I read it. We didn't read it for the podcast. I read it, and I said to Malya, someone recommended that I read this book called One Italian Summer. I read it. I don't think it's really for the podcast. It's not so Jewish. A Shiva is mentioned one time. I don't think that's enough to do a whole episode on or really call a Jewish romance. I liked it, but I don't really think it's right for us. Molly said, okay, never really thought about it again. But because of the cover art, for some reason, every time Sara Goodman Confino's books came up, I thought they were Rebecca Searle's books. Sorry, I keep repeating the story, but I kept avoiding these books.
Right.
But then when Jean Meltzer mentioned her dear friend Sara Goodman Confino, when Molly and I were talking about the Jersey Shore as a great, perfect setting for Jewish romance, she's like, basically, I said this entire thing again, and she was like, what are you talking about? She didn't write One Italian Summer, but she said it much nicer because Jean Meltzer's the nicest person Molly and I have ever spoken to.
True.
And anyway, because of that conversation, we just read Don't Forget to Write, a novel by Sara Goodman Confino, and I'm so excited to talk to you about it.
Me too. All right, where do we begin?
It's a big pivot. It starts off in a hilarious way. I laughed.
Yes. It's a very funny opening scene.
We're in shul. We're in a conservative shul. The men and women are sitting together.
It's 1960 also. I think that's very important.
It's 1960.
Yes.
We're in a conservative shul in 1960 in New York.
Yes.
And we have our main character, Marilyn, making eyes with the rabbi's son.
Right.
They meet up right outside of the shul
Yeah.
during services on
Right.
Shabbat morning. They flirt a little, go into the rabbi's office, start making out, fall through the stained glass of the ark on the bima,
Right, like through into it. Yeah.
through,
Yes.
shattered stained glass everywhere. The two
Eek.
of there's blood.
Yes. His blood, right? Yeah.
Bringing shame to both Rabbi Schwartz's family and Marilyn's family. And that's just like the funniest opening scene we've ever seen.
It was pretty good.
Right away, we could tell that Marilyn, she's like home from college. She's quick-witted. She's like sassy, I feel like is the right word.
Yeah, yeah. A little rebellious.
Yes, and rebellious. Obviously rebellious if she's making out with the rabbi's son during shul on Saturday morning. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And she's like, after this, but then I laughed. I mean, we're not going to give you a chapter by chapter recap, but then I laughed again at the next chapter because she's stuck at home, like grounded or whatever. She's sent by home. There's a scandal. Everyone's upset. Her father's furious about what happened.
The rabbi's son like immediately offers to marry her.
That was the second time I laughed out loud.
Yeah.
Daniel Schwartz comes to the house and decides to propose.
Right.
Immediately after. Like, this is what's going to take the shame away from the family. So I found this hysterical. I just thought it was very funny. She says no. She thinks this is insane.
Her parents are like, yeah, you should go for it. Which also seems a little insane, but okay.
It's like 1960. They are completely mortified. This makes sense to them. Yeah, they'll be married. So
is this accurate for... Okay, I have this question about the whole book, so maybe I'm asking it too early, but I want to know, like, is this an accurate portrayal of life in 1960 that everyone was so quick to just jump to marriage to literally solve any issue, including, like, making out and breaking a window?
I don't know. It's like there is something about this book that reminds me of, like, also a kind of fantastical. Did you ever watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
No.
Okay. This book reminds me of that and the energy of that book. But then also, like, my mom in those years.
Interesting.
Like, and my grandparents.
Right. That makes sense. That's
so
cool,
it's like,
actually.
I don't know, obviously, but it's like, I do think that they felt that marriage was really important, that anything outside of marriage was completely unheard of.
Right.
Unacceptable.
Right.
Obviously making out in the rabbi's office with the rabbi's son on the bima, shattered glass everywhere. Like, the whole thing is so preposterous. The idea that, like, a wedding would fix it, because it happens later in the book, we'll get to later when, like, there's other marriage proposals.
Right.
But yes, like, I think maybe in, like, a certain kind of family that, I think it was a different time.
Definitely. I mean, that's the whole book is basically, like, very focused on how different the time was, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I loved it. I loved this book. Like,
yeah, it was very fun.
It was so much fun. But yes, it was of a very different time. So because of the whole thing that happened, he thought he was going to fix a situation with this proposal. Her parents have another plan of how to fix the situation. By the way, they would have been very fine with that plan.
Yeah.
But instead, they decide to ship her off to her Aunt Ada, who lives in Philly for the summer.
Who she's never met or doesn't remember meeting.
She met her once at a bar mitzvah many, many years ago, has no relationship with her, but she's her Aunt Ada.
Right.
I think it's funny she's never met her.
It is funny.
But her mom also spent time with Aunt Ada. It's like, this has happened before in the family, like when she was her age or something like that.
Right.
She's like, a summer with your Aunt Ada is just what you need. She goes to, but even just like the way that Philly's described, Aunt Ada is a single woman in her 70s.
Yes.
Who is presented really as having a lot of money.
Right.
Marilyn's family also is presented as being very wealthy New Yorkers with a brownstone.
Right.
And she goes to Aunt Ada's in Philly. Aunt Ada's a matchmaker.
For the Jewish community specifically.
For the Jewish community.
Yeah.
With, again, like, quick wit, major sass.
Yes.
there's so much like banter and bickering, but in a way that's, I think, fun.
Yeah, she like sets herself up as being sort of stern, like almost like, I don't know, school marmish to or maybe that's the wrong term. Like, yeah, sort of stern and like is going to, you know, knows that Marilyn's been sent to them because she's sort of been bad or whatever, and she's and that Aunt Ada's gonna kind of like put her in her place, which seems sort of ridiculous because Aunt Ada herself is sort of this like platinum dyed blonde, red lipstick
Totsy
wearing,
totsy.
convertible driving, like single woman who's just sort of lived this kind of seems like kind of glamorous and herself sort of like outside the traditional realm life. So it's weird that she's trying to sort of like but she's also a matchmaker, so it's this weird juxtaposition of like upholding these traditional values but also kind of questioning them, and I guess that kind of becomes apparent over the book.
Right. Like she doesn't, Marilyn going into it, like for sure thinks she's like, I think going to a convent, but then early on, like though in the first 2 seconds of meeting Aunt Ada, Aunt Ada sees, she doesn't want to be called Aunt Ada. She wants to be called Ada. And
Right.
she sees Marilyn's like bright lipstick. And she's like, what are you wearing? You know, that's going to make you look fast. Let me have the lipstick. And then she wears the lipstick the rest of the summer, you know?
Right.
So
Right. So that's right. That's
yes.
that kind of telling of the
Totally.
whole vibe.
So, but so they spend a very little time in Philly, and very early on, they go to her summer house in Avalon, New Jersey, on the shore,
Yes.
and they become close, and
Very close.
very close. They adore each other.
Yes.
They're a perfect fit too because of the wit. They're quick. There's sarcasm. They have really good banter. But the thing
Yes.
is, the way that the dialogue's written in this book, it's like it feels believable to me, even though the whole thing, in a sense, like feels so of a different time, a totally different generation. But it's like
Yeah,
she
it was
writes
great.
dialogue well.
Yeah, it sounded, I mean, it felt realistic. It felt, and it didn't even feel necessarily so old fashioned the way that they were speaking. It was just sort of the setting and the plot that sort of,
Totally,
wouldn't be possible in modern times. But the dialogue all felt like sort of snippy and quick and a
totally.
little like Gilmore Girls-y almost.
Yes. The thing about the life in this other generation, like life on the shore in 1960. Obviously, this happened, in many other generations too, but like not having cell phones, like, but still like the phone is like, still the idea of a phone is important. Like every day from 2 to 4, they were always home. And that's when people would call to book their appointments with like to have Ada's matchmaking services. Like it was like an unofficial thing people knew somehow. Marilyn's like, I wonder how they knew that. Like the phone is still ringing, but there's also no phones. And so, for much of the book, she's sneaking around in this illicit relationship, which we'll talk about, but he's not calling. And they're sort of like, she's going outside and kind of hoping she's going to see him. And it's just like a whole other thing. And there's something about that, like sneaking around, no cell phones, night on the beach, waiting outside. Are we going to see him? Am I not? Like, that's so summery and fun.
Totally. She's like writing letters to her mom, like waiting for her letters back. Like it's very, the sort of that communication makes it interesting.
Yeah. It's like nostalgic and really nice. I like it.
Yes.
So right away, Ada puts kind of Marilyn to work with the matchmaking services. She's like sending her to random parks to talk to boys to get their numbers for them to be matches. She's having her sit in on her like matchmaking appointments. Like I thought those were all kind of funny. Like the matchmaking appointments.
Yeah, they were great. Like there was that one where it was like, and they all also have sort of a period comedy. I never watched Mrs. Maisel, but maybe this is part of it. Just sort of like these little snippets of these characters, like the mom who's like horrified by how ugly her own daughter is kind of like making fun of her in the to her face, and then Aunt Ada has Marilyn take the mom out and kind of like does a little mini makeover to the daughter in like 5 minutes, and she comes back in and the daughter looks great, and the mom's kind of like, oh wow, okay, and then the Aunt Ada's like, what a jerk that mom is, who, whatever, we're gonna like, that girl's great, whatever, just, but all these like little kind of quick snippets of these stereotypical situations.
Right. On both ends, like the girls that they're meeting, the guys that she's met. Also, like getting into her head of like who makes a good match and what makes a good match. You know, like at one point, Marilyn is like, "Oh, maybe we'll set her up with this one." She's like, "What makes you think that that would be a good match?" And she's like, "Well, they both like this. They're both this. He's tall, and their moms seemed fine." Like,
Right.
you know, the
Yes,
idea of setting
totally.
people up where both moms are okay is a good thing versus like two nightmares or one great mom with one nightmare.
Right. She seems to have like a very pragmatic
Yeah,
attitude of just sort
yeah,
of like, listen, the truth is like these are the realities of the things you're going to have to deal with. And so since you have to marry someone, you might as well have someone who can pair you up with these things in
right,
mind.
right. Now, as this is happening, like right away, when I mentioned like going into parks and talking to random guys, she initially meets this guy, Freddie, who like flirts with her right away. I was also thinking the entire time I was reading this book, like Sara Goodman Confino writes flirting very well.
Mm. Yeah, I agree.
There was so much flirtation
By
in this
everyone
book.
to everyone. Yeah, totally.
Yes, by everyone to everyone. And
Yes.
one thing that I love about this book is I feel like in so many romances, it's like about this happily ever after, and it's about one major relationship.
Right. Right.
In
Here we
almost
saw,
every
right. We saw like the whole arc of a relationship begin and end.
like we saw exactly. So it's like she meets this guy Freddie. Ada sort of she's already I'm about to sneeze. Maybe this could be cut out, but or maybe not. It's up to
Bless you.
William.
Totally.
Okay. Ada warns her against Freddie. She's, by the way, not allowed to date at all this summer. Like that's obviously part of the terms. Like as this like whole summer of whatever her good girl summer.
This is
Her,
like a punishment. This summer's supposed to be a punishment. She's
Yeah,
like
and like
banished from New York. She's living with her like spinster aunt and helping her out. Like that's the
right,
that's the
right. And she's
conceit.
like there's some sort of like reform that's she's supposed to learn some lessons.
Yeah.
So she's warned off of Freddie, but not with details. And then she also meets his sister. Anyway, the family invites her over. She's like initially turned off by the parents, like very turned off by the parents.
Right.
But she's like really enjoying this flirtation with Freddie. He also seems like extremely into her. He's coming on pretty strong. His
Very strong.
But it's like
Yes.
because she's into it, it's okay. It's like think about
Yeah.
someone who's flirting when you're not into it. It's like gross. Like if you're not
Totally.
into it, it's like
Right.
just like it's like but if you're into it, she liked him.
Yeah,
Like
she was flattered. Yeah, totally.
but she did, kind of like note some differences, like probably specifically like values things with her parents. I think she thought that they were very showy and flashy, but like wannabes and trying too hard,
Right.
which she was kind
That's
of
what Aunt
grossed
Ada
out
said about
by.
them also.
And
That's what
she's
Ada
grossed
said.
out by that, right?
Yeah.
Ada said it that, but she like kind of just like already like is like she has money and just like is wealthy from New York and doesn't feel like she has to flaunt it at all. It just sort of like
Right.
that's gross to her. And
It's extremely
therefore
privileged. I mean, like she's the most privileged.
she's
Like she doesn't consider money or any like cost of anything for 1 second in the whole book.
exactly. But anytime she does mention money or ask about it to Ada, Ada's like talking about money is, I can't
Right. We
remember
don't
the
talk
word
about finances. Yes.
exactly.
Right.
Like very often, Marilyn will do or say something, and Ada's like, "We don't blah blah blah. Or, we don't do that." Or, like she orders in a restaurant. She's like, "That's not how you order in a restaurant." Like it's almost like one privileged person learning from an even more privileged person.
Right. 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 Right.
Like
But there's some
even at
sort of
one
a sense that this is like some kind of like weird finishing school of like teaching you to
totally,
be a lady in some way.
totally. Um, So anyway, she has this flirtation with Freddie. They start something. It's like,
Yeah.
but it involves sneaking around. It's physical, but like she actually seems like she really likes him, and he seems like he really likes her.
Totally.
My perception of the whole relationship is that he's very into her. So we'll put a pin in that for a second and talk a little bit about the relationship. But simultaneously, the other thing that's happening is like Ada's also like whining and dining Marilyn, like similar to what Malya was just saying about this like finishing school. So she's like eating all these foods she never ate with her parents, a lot of trave.
Yes.
But she's a Jewish matchmaker. And again, like this also reminds me a little bit of like some parts of my family. Like my Auntie Flo, well, when my mom was younger, it was my Auntie Flo and Uncle Dave. But by the time I was 3 or 4, my Uncle Dave died. So for me, my Auntie Flo was alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like Auntie Flo and Uncle Dave, like they're the ones who like took my mom out to like her first Chinese restaurant and like you know, they might not have been ordering like real trafe, but for sure it was like a different experience than what her parents were giving her. I'd be
Sure.
curious what my mom has to say about it, but guess what? We'll hear.
I'm
Um,
sure.
but you know, it's like there's just something about it that was reminiscent to me of like some of the Auntie Flo stories.
Sure.
Or like even Aunt Ada, like the way she kind of quips back at things that Marilyn says or does. Like I remember once sitting in my Auntie Flo's car and I was wearing a tank top and a tiny bit of my bra was showing and she was like, "Your brassiere is showing."
That's
It's
really
like,
funny.
"What? Yeah, I'm wearing a spaghetti strap dress." Oh, sure, of course it is. Like
Right.
it has to, you have to see it. Um, she should have seen you at Six Flags.
There was no bra strap, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah,
oh
no,
man.
there's something about it that feels like nostalgic and like really fun, and I love it. So yeah, she's eating a ton of trafe. I was curious about that. What you thought about that? That feels actually, I think, very of that time for this part of the Jewish community to me.
Totally. And I don't even know if it's even so of that time. I feel like it's like that era in people's lives. If you've grown up kind of more traditional, it seemed like she had grown up kind of traditional, but without necessarily like such a strong Jewish, like a strong Jewish identity that was more cultural than necessarily like
Yes,
driven by her religion or family
100%.
unit. And
Cultural, traditional.
yeah. And
Like they went
so
to shul on Shabbat.
they went to Shul and Shabbat, but maybe it was more just because that was sort of like a societal, cultural community obligation. Like then she was like, oh, I think my dad is just like kind of happy that this happened, so he has an excuse not to go to shul on Shabbat, even though he's claiming it's because he's embarrassed. But it
Right,
was, it
right.
was sort of like no one's really that into shul. It's just like an expectation that we go, so we go.
This is what we do. Yeah,
Yeah. So, and then you're kind of like out on your own. You're away from that cultural world, and you're just sort of like, oh, I could eat this lobster, and like, do I
yeah.
really?
Crab salad.
But crab salad sounds good. Like, do I really care about this outside of my, like, the Jersey Shore is kind of like a world away from those expectations, I guess.
Right, right,
And I
right,
think most people in that scenario do try the crab salad.
right, right. No, that makes sense. Also, just the way that the Jersey Shore, like the descriptions of the restaurants, the beach, the dunes, these giant there's Atlantic City scenes in this book.
They sound great. Those Atlantic City scenes were really fun.
Like the comparison of those like straight out of Boardwalk Empire, even though I know it's years later than when Boardwalk Empire took place,
Yeah.
but just like women in gorgeous dresses, they're wearing fur stoles, there's heels, they're
I love that they're all
dressed.
wearing fur, even though it's like it's like
It's like
August.
hot in July.
Yeah.
It's like hot at night in the summer.
But they have
There's
to.
fur stoles.
Right.
They're walking around. They're being wined and dined. It sounds gorgeous. Like I had just been there after I read it, like for a cheer competition where it's just like, it's just gross. It's just gross now. It's like, I
Aw.
wish, like, it's just like leggings and t-shirts and I know there's so much gambling done also, but just like the AC of that time.
Right. The glamour. There's not the
Oh,
glamour, but there was.
no,
Right.
no. There's like maybe the glitz, but it's like
Yeah, it's
in a
like
totally
it's
different way.
rhinestones, not diamonds.
Exactly. It's like ugly bling and not diamonds. Exactly. There's like a Frank Sinatra scene.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
So there's just a lot that I love all of that. Like those scenes were amazing and evocative and like obviously we've talked about like the setting of books.
Yeah, yeah, no, this definitely conjure. I mean, again, it didn't conjure like the Jersey Shore that I know per se. Not that I'm such an expert, but because of the time difference, and there
Totally.
wasn't, like I know the Jersey Shore as like boardwalks with arcades and like,
Totally.
like all that stuff, mini golf and like. Although actually, I think they did mention mini golf at one point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And the like amusement park type Ferris
the
wheel, this,
amusement,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So you
But
can
it's still
see
like there's a romantic it's just different then.
totally,
Even
but
at one point, she compares it to Coney Island. She's like, "There's nothing like Coney Island." I was like, "Well, even now, like comparing,
right. Coney Island, ugh.
Coney, you know what I
Right?
mean."
Yeah,
So it
totally,
was,
of course.
like Sara Goodman Confino did an amazing job with the shore.
Yeah. Very fun scene.
It really was. So anyway, Freddie turns out that he's knocked up someone else, and now sort of has to like marry her. but he doesn't want to. And he's just like, actually, I'm just going to marry you. I'm just going to forget about her and marry you. And this whole experience of learning that Freddie impregnated somebody else, but now he's sort of like, they want me to marry her, but really, like, I just want to marry you. I want to be with you. I want to be with you. She's like, wait, you're a dirtbag.
Right.
What? And then her sister was kind of gross about it. I like all the language. She's like, wait, what? You're with, I thought you hated Freddie. And she's like, wait, are you also in a fix? I love like in a fix.
In a fix. I like that too. Yeah, that's good. And then also like, and then afterward, when she's afraid she might be in a fix, and then Aunt Ada keeps referring to her cycle. When is your cycle due?
Yeah. Yeah. She was due that Monday. They were so happy when she got her period and that she wasn't in a fix. Also, because she was sneaking around this whole time from Ada, who like obviously knew something because she has eyes in the back of her head. She's just one of those.
Totally. And then and she was totally nonplussed, like by the whole, it was just funny because it was like the whole conceit was like, no men, no lipstick. You come home, you go to the beach, you help me with work, that's it. But then it's like, oh, you were sneaking around and like having sex in your bed here from a guy who crawled in the window. Okay, when's your cycle due? Like she just like took it in stride.
But also because it's also like, this is a part of life and growing up, and she knows that. She's like, you're going to be heartbroken. We're going to say you have the flu for 3 days. You're going to be okay.
Right.
I've been heartbroken. You're going to be okay.
Were we to take it that when she had sex with Freddie, that was her first sexual experience?
Huh.
I was wondering this afterward because it didn't present it like it was.
It didn't.
Then I kind of was like, maybe it was.
It didn't present it like it was at all. I didn't think it was, but I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think so. Also, like another thing that comes up is like when she learns that she's going to the shore, she's like, wait, like the Hamptons? Like she's a New Yorker and she has experience in the Hamptons and she has a lot of experience in the Catskills, way more experience in the Catskills than the Hamptons, but she knows of New Yorkers who go to the Hamptons for the summer.
Right.
So this like world of like Philly Jews and Jersey Jews going to the Jersey Shore is totally new to her.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But yes, but the reason I brought all that up, it seems like a non sequitur, is that like I kind of envision like all those summers in Catskills resorts that like there's been a lot of other guys. I don't think you make out with the rabbi's son so
so casually if you're just sort of so right, like
without having like a comfort level.
Yeah. You're right, and all the stuff about like protection. She seemed like she had like protection during sex. She seemed like she knew what she was doing. Somewhat.
Yeah, she was educated.
Yeah.
Oh, because even she said to them when the rabbi's son proposed, like, it's not like we did anything that can get me pregnant.
Right.
Like they almost, choked.
Right. They were freaked out by that. The mom fainted. Didn't the mom literally faint at some point? That was funny. That was part of the humor. This would be a great miniseries, like a great like TV
it would
movie
be fantastic.
Or something.
The thing is, because Mrs. Maisel already exists and it's a Jewish family in this time, and she's so funny and she's quick-witted and there's like a divorce and this, and it's like this storyline could be woven in, but it's like almost like there's too much. Actually, maybe I'm wrong. There's a million of the same shows. Why not have another one?
Yeah. It seems very
great.
Cinematic to me. Like
100%. Very visual, very cinematic. I would love to watch it in a TV show form or movie form. It was great. So
also the other thing is like her character the whole time is like increasingly realizing that she sees like marriage, and she has this like recurring vision of like standing in a kitchen with like babies screaming in the background and like having to cook dinner, and she's just like, oh my god, this is a nightmare. Like I don't want this. I don't want to marry anyone. And then she sees Aunt Ada, who's like gone her own way and made this life for herself without getting married. And she's like, maybe I want to be like this. And Aunt Ada buys her a typewriter and she's like, maybe I want to be a writer. So there's this whole like woman coming into her own like thing going on.
Right. And then she like sees a kid walking down the boardwalk and she's like, well, I kind of do want that. I don't want to just be Ada, but you know, I don't exactly know what I want, but I definitely don't want to just be, married off and not be able to be myself. Like she wants to be able to be, I think, in partnership with someone, but also be herself. And I think she thinks herself is to write and not just like slave away in a kitchen, parent. She really, really wants to be her own person and not just a wife.
Yes.
This comes up constantly, but being with Ava is like reflecting that for her or bringing that up for her, having this summer, right?
Right.
Anyway, also Ada keeps referencing like, you're just like your mom, you're just like your mom. So like her mom had a big summer like that also. I think there might have been an abortion. There's a whole to-do that her mom definitely had that summer too. Ended up with her dad, who knows?
Right.
Okay, there's some things we got to skip because there's just so much going. There's a lot of like small plot lines. Like there's just a lot in this book.
Agreed.
But she moves on from Freddie. He's a loser.
He marries that girl.
He marries her right away, the pregnant one.
Yeah.
he kind of comes back and whatever. She's over it. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that. She's just like, I'm done.
Totally.
Goodbye,
Which
Freddie. She
that
walks
felt
past him
real
on the beach.
also. It was like, okay, like they had a moment. It could have turned into something, but really it wasn't that big of a deal and she's over it.
Exactly. Like, there was some heartbreak. She sobbed. She retched.
Yeah.
She sees him on the beach. Goodbye, Freddie. She moves on. Also, like, the experience of understanding that he got someone else pregnant and was gonna not do right by her, especially given the time that this was all happening in. This gave her the ick. I was like, oh, she got the ick from Freddie.
Totally.
She's gotten the ick. She's done.
Yeah.
She's hurt, but also she's grossed out.
Agreed.
For some of our listeners who might not know, like our parents, getting the ick is a concept when you're in a relationship or you're dating someone or you've just like met someone or whatever, you have a flirtation or a crush on someone and they do anything small and you're immediately turned off. It's called getting the ick.
Yes.
The majority of our listeners know what that is, but I wanted to define our terms for all our listeners.
That's very inclusive.
Yeah. So I think that's a good description of what getting the ick means.
I like
Anyway, something happens, which is that the rabbi's son rings the doorbell.
With flowers.
With flowers. She slams the door in his face. She's not interested. Ada immediately loves this guy and is like, you absolutely need to go on a date. Go upstairs, get dressed, put yourself together. You got to go out with him.
Right. He's been thinking about her all summer since that kiss and the fall through the glass.
Yeah. He kind of apologizes for the proposal.
Right. He realizes that was a misstep.
But they start dating.
Yes.
Gets pretty hot and heavy.
Yes.
Simultaneously, we learn a little bit about Ada's companion.
Right. The whole time.
The reason.
Go on.
Well, just the reason that Marilyn was able to stay there for the summer is that her companion, who's usually with her all summer, who's like her sidekick in the business.
Yes.
Is this woman Lillian, who couldn't be there because her parent was dying. Her mom or dad, someone was dying.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why there was like a free room and this kind of like opening in Ada's schedule, an opportunity for her to be able to, for Marilyn to be able to come. So we hear about Lillian the whole time. That parent does die. That's at a point when Ada goes away to, spend that time with her. They're very, very close.
Yes.
At a certain point, she comes back at the end of the summer. They're all encouraged. They get along really well, whatever. A lot going on with Lillian.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot going on with her and Daniel Schwartz, the rabbi's son.
Right. Who she also gets to try lobster and mussels and crabs and everything, by the way.
Yeah, he also tries it.
He's like, I'm the rabbi's son, not the rabbi.
Right. He's the rabbi's son, not the rabbi. So she orders lobster, I think, also to test him. Like, how's he going to react to this?
I think she's trying to drive him away still at that point.
Yeah, it is true. He should know what he's going to get into. Like, I'm not a girl who goes to shul every week.
Right.
And I'm not just a wife. A kosher wife keeps a kosher home.
Right. I'm going to break the rules, lobster. Whatever. Right.
Exactly. He orders it too.
Yeah, he's cool with it.
Yeah.
He likes everything about her, basically. I mean, everything she's trying to throw out there to turn him off, he's into.
Yeah. But she really likes him.
She starts to, yeah.
So they get serious.
Right.
Ada's thrilled. She thinks this is like the absolute perfect match.
Yeah. She loves him from the get-go.
You sort of want to trust, Ada's intuition and instinct has kind of been great this whole time.
Yeah, she seems very wise, Ada. Like, she kind of just gets the world.
Yeah. Yeah, Ada gets it. She wines and dines him. Also, she sends them off on dates, and then it's all fully paid for by Ada.
Right.
The wait staff knows her everywhere. Everywhere
Frank
she
Sinatra
goes.
knew her personally. She's just this
Sinatra
sort of larger than life character who's just known and revered by everyone.
Yeah, Frank was happy she was there. Yeah. Also, he gave Marilyn a kiss and said something like, "Are you my present tonight?"
Right. That was the thrill of her life. That was really, I liked that. I mean, maybe it was a little cheesy and silly and over the top, but I liked it because those run-ins with a celebrity, not that I've ever had a run-in with a celebrity and leave with Frank Sinatra, but even someone low level, they can give you such a high, it gives you such a high, especially when you're that age, when you're young like that. That's a fun summer experience.
Oh, completely. Yeah. The smallest, Steve Buscemi asking me which way the F train was, in downtown Brooklyn. That's not Frank Sinatra at a concert kissing you on the cheek and saying, "Are you my present?"
It's comparable.
Is this the F train? Yep. That's it.
He asked you if it was the F train? Why?
Yeah, but it's so weird because he's down. Yes, is this the F train? Yeah, it's the F.
Right. What did he think it was?
Yeah, because like, there's like so many different trains. Like
I
downtown Brooklyn, like in J
Yeah.
Street, there's just like a lot of, but yeah, that's the
I
F.
guess, but like there's also a sign that says F. I mean,
There was me. He wanted to know for me.
great. I'm happy for you. That's
Maybe
great.
is this the F or the G? Was he saying, is this the F or the G? I don't know. I said, yeah, it's the F. And I realized it was Steve Buscemi. Anyway, similar and different.
Right, totally.
But I was buzzing.
Yeah. It's a high.
So anyway, you know what? A lot of good stuff happens at the end, and I almost don't want to spoil all of it, is the truth, because
Should we not
there's
say?
some big reveals. There's some big reveals.
I have to say, I think I saw the big reveals coming. Many of them.
The Ada and Lillian reveal.
Right.
Yeah, I saw that one coming. Because also, like, companion, like, I thought that was just, was that code for, that was code for them being in a relationship the whole time.
I think so, but I sort of thought that from the beginning.
The
Also-
Thomas's dad was a reveal I wasn't expecting.
That's true. I wasn't expecting that.
So I know that our listeners don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
Right.
But the reason, I think this book is worth reading. It's really good. Did you read or listen or both?
Only listened.
It's such a good listen.
Yeah, the narrator was really good.
She was amazing.
Yeah, it was a fun, I looked forward to it.
I did both. So anyone who reads it will love this book, but if you want to listen to our audiobook listener, it's really good.
Yeah, she did the voices well without being annoying. Sometimes when they change their pitch for the voices, it can be annoying, but I think she totally pulled it off.
Completely.
Did you read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo?
I did.
I felt like Aunt Ada was Evelyn Hugo.
Oh, yeah. I see that. Jewish Evelyn Hugo.
She's Jewish Evelyn Hugo. To me, that was like
Who's also
I don't
a
know,
shot
that
fan.
like really came to me. She's a shot. No, well, she like had that same like larger than life blonde bombshell. Also like the sexuality stuff that was sort of hidden, and I don't know.
This is the Zero Husbands of, but yes.
Or the Zero Husbands of it. Right, exactly. Well, again, the same character. It felt like the same character.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I really see that. So Ada had a lot of romances in her life. She had been in love, she said, twice.
Right.
We learned a few more details about that. She also had an engagement that didn't work out because her fiance died, but he wasn't one of the two great loves of her life.
Right.
Thomas, this guy who drives her around and like is helpful, like not almost a handyman, but not. He's in med school. He's going to med school, but he like helps her around the house and stuff. He is older than Marilyn, but is in med school and helps Marilyn. His father and her had a romance. There's a reveal about that at some point.
Right.
And then also Lillian.
Right.
Which is of that, in 1960, Jewish matchmaker, like, probably like had very traditional parents. Like each of these generations is getting like less and less and less.
Sure.
So, a totally different time. It was not public at all, this relationship with Lillian.
Right. Didn't even really seem like such an open secret, whereas to me it seems sort of obvious, but I guess, I don't know, maybe in that time it wasn't. Yeah.
Her companion, her friend, her partner in crime, that, but it's like comes out in Ada's death, which was very sad. I wanted Ada to live forever.
I know.
And so did Marilyn. It's like she just met her. She wanted her to be a part of her life. She wanted her to be at her wedding and part of her kid's life. Like that, I really felt that.
Yeah, totally. That was really...
She loved her. She was such a gift to her, and then she died.
Yeah. But, she gave her what she needed, I guess, was the point.
She did.
Yeah.
She did. Tons of wisdom. By the way, she also left her tons of money.
Great.
Homes.
Right.
And then she was a major homeowner, Ada.
Yeah. She had some line about like, she's real estate, never a bad investment. Some like witticism business advice.
So she like
about
has
that.
the place in Philly. She has multiple places on the shore. Like the people
she
who
had
work
a place
in her house.
Key West. Yeah, they
Key
always
West
get
was her
houses.
secret lesbian Heidi hole.
Right.
Yeah, that's where her and Lillian went.
Right.
Where she could just be herself. All that stuff was implied earlier.
Right. That's why it wasn't really such a reveal. But I appreciated the build up. It was you were waiting for it.
For sure. I didn't want Ada to die, but I know that these books, I know it's how it has to be.
It's how it goes.
I know.
And it was a nice portrayal of how you could be like sort of a mother figure without being a mother.
Totally.
I like those kind of things.
Me too. I loved this book. Also, like, because again, I had like randomly avoided this author for absolutely no reason except that her cover art reminded me of another author. I was surprised. Like I went in not knowing what to expect. And now I feel like the ultimate dum dum because guess what? She came to my local JCC to do a book talk like
Oh,
recently.
cool.
And I
Does
was
she have a
like,
new book?
skipping that,
Right.
I guess. I was like, and it's Sara Goodman Confino. Like I missed a night I could have like hung out with her.
Oh
I'm sure we
man.
could talk to her if we want, but
Right.
I felt like a real silly person. But I
Whatever.
loved this book.
Yeah, it was really fun. I
It
thought
was
it was
fun.
just a fun. It was fun. It was like I was looking forward to getting into my car and hearing it.
Totally. Totally recommend anyone to listen or read, but also like Jewish wise, like because these are like New York Jews and like Philly Jews who are just like completely ingrained and enmeshed in the Jewish community, like they can't help but like weave in like Jewish concepts and like Jewish things throughout. But
Right.
one, I had like someone said something and I never had heard this term in use. It was like she said they were in a matchmaking meeting and she said something and she was like, "Oh, what a Baal Shem." Like I've heard of the Baal Shem Tov,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I've never heard something described as a Baal Shem. Can you speak on that?
Sure. Yeah, I was surprised by that term just because it seemed much more. I didn't think that this society would use a term like Baal Shem. It seemed much more like religious and Hasidic to me. But I do know like a Baal Shem is like the Baal Shem Tov. It means like master of the good name, like someone who has like you have a good name, like you're a good, like you have a good name. So if you're such a Baal Shem, it's like you're just like you're a good person, like your reputation is accurate. But that again,
Right.
I
She
associate
said
that.
miracle. When she translated, it's like this is I think when she this is the weirdest is when she it's like when she did the 5 minute makeover to that girl that you had mentioned.
Yeah, yeah,
That's why
yeah.
it's like the weirdest that this is when it's mentioned. But she's like, Mrs. Stein's mouth was open, her eyes bulging. Ada instructed Hannah to twirl around, which she did. How did you? She's got wonderful bone structure, Ada said. You're gonna take her to Gimbel's down on Market Street. Ask for Charlotte. I'll call ahead. She'll take care of you. It's like meaning to get her a new wardrobe.
Yeah,
And I'll
yeah.
call you later this week with some matches. You're a true Baal Shem, Mrs. Stein breathed. When they left, I asked Ada what Baal Shem meant. Miracle worker, Yiddish. She shook her head
Mm.
angrily. The real miracle was me not slapping that awful woman. Who treats another human that way, let alone their own child? Anyway, miracle worker is
Miracle
how
worker.
it's.
Okay, so I guess it's like right, like those people I guess also did perform miracles, I guess. Those
So, maybe. That makes sense.
Hasidic masters.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a
So
weird
that,
term to be using in this society that didn't seem particularly religious or I don't know. But I guess it's again, it's like every generation kind of has the vestiges from the previous, their
yeah.
parents or
And like
whatever. So
words you
it's yeah,
use
yeah, yeah.
and.
It's still sticking around. I
Right.
think this book was a really good example of something where like it wasn't there it wasn't so much Jewish content, but it was a very Jewish book. Like I think
Yes.
that's I'm just saying what you said in different words, but it was just sort of like it wasn't like necessarily the plot was so Jewish particularly or like what the main character was experiencing. It felt more universal and just about coming of age and that time period more than being Jewish specifically. But it was also a very Jewish book because like their
Completely.
references and the little nuances of their world and their decisions they were making were also in like just it gave you that flavor.
It was just like Jewish culture was just ingrained in who they were.
Yes.
Even like she gets to not Aventura, Avalon. She gets to Avalon and she's like, wait, is it Jewish? Is it a Jewish area? And she's like, two churches, no synagogue, like no shuls. She says no
Right.
shuls, not synagogues. She goes, two churches, no shuls will be heathens for the summer.
Right.
Like
Right.
they're referencing shul, not shul.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like a part, even what they're not doing, it's still like
It's
in relationship to their Jewish connection or identity or something, or like just
totally.
Jewish tradition, not or practice. I don't know. I agree with you.
Yeah, that's just like that's the way they view things. Even if it's to
Right.
rebel against, that's just their world.
Right.
Yeah.
I also thought it's interesting that like this whole thing that she connects to Daniel on is like his father wants him to be a rabbi, and she's like, oh, it's like being the rabbi's son, like the same as me being, married off and like not being a rabbi. Not being a rabbi to the rabbi's son is like hard for his dad. His
Right.
father wants him to be a rabbi. This is not coming out clearly. I just was wondering if that's true. Like I don't know that to be true or not true. Like if a rabbi or a rabbi
Necessarily
of
wants
that
his
time
son
would
to be
care.
a rabbi. Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I was just curious about that. I don't know the answer, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Maybe a rabbi then would want that. Like maybe that's a great honor, or maybe not. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, I want to read her other books.
Totally. Does she have a lot?
And yes, there's a few. And for Kindle Unlimited users, they're on Kindle Unlimited.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And I do wonder, like, how much of this is autobiographical in any way? Like, you know, we've talked about, like, bookish people in books. Like, in romance books, there's all these, like, she's a writer. She has her head in a book the whole time. Her mom keeps sending her books. Like,
her mom,
you know,
she sees her mom as, like, the woman who married the kind of safe, stable guy, her dad, and, like, always escaped into books and was always, like, letting the dinner burn because she was reading a book.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, another bookish person reading books all the time and writing one. And, you know, just, I'm curious about that. But
yeah.
I loved it.
Fun. Very fun.
Yeah, really fun. Should we talk about our next read?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember The Matchmaker's Gift?
Of course.
By Linda Cohen Loigman.
Yes.
You remember? Yeah,
historical. We were following, like, the grandmother and the granddaughter. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So my mom sent me a book. I thought you were on that email because I find my mom to be a stealthy BCCer. Like, I have experiences where my mom will, like, write an email, but then, like, someone replies that I didn't.
That's funny.
How am I getting this reply? They're not on the first email. I'm very confused by the technology. But you didn't get this email.
I don't think so. I have gotten a bunch of obviously BCC emails from her lately about, like,
you could tell.
You know, recalls on lettuce, like things like that.
Oh, wait, no. My mom has been so into food recalls lately.
I got a few of late about food recalls that were obviously to a large group.
I think it was just like us and your sister, though.
Oh, really?
I don't know. We can ask.
Okay.
So, The Love Elixir of Augusta Stern is Linda Cohen Loigman's newest book. I'm going to read you the description. Right. You haven't heard of this book yet, right?
No.
Okay. Let me know what you think. I think we should read this next. On the cusp of turning 80, newly retired pharmacist Augusta Stern is adrift. When she relocates to Ryantondo Springs, an active senior community in southern Florida, she unexpectedly crosses paths with Irving Rifkin, the delivery boy from her father's old pharmacy and the man who broke her heart 60 years earlier. Oh, this is like, I feel like it's connected to what we just read. As a teenager growing up in 1920s Brooklyn, Augusta's role model was her father, Solomon Stern, the trusted owner of the local pharmacy and the neighborhood expert on every ailment. But when Augusta's mother dies and great aunt Esther moves in, Augusta can't help but be drawn to Esther's curious methods. As a healer herself, Esther often offers Solomon's customers her own advice, unconventional remedies ranging from homemade chicken soup to a mysterious array of powders and potions. I love witchy books. As Augusta prepares for pharmacy college, she's torn between loyalty to her father and fascination with her great aunt, all while navigating a budding and complicated relationship with Irving. Desperate for clarity, she impulsively uses Esther's most potent elixir with disastrous consequences. Disillusioned, and alone, Augusta vows to reject Esther's enchantments forever. 60 years later, confronted with Irving, Augusta is still haunted by the mistakes of her past. What happened all those years ago, and how did her plan go so spectacularly wrong? Did Irving ever truly love her, or was he simply playing the part? And can Augusta reclaim the magic of her youth before it's too late?
Amazing. Sounds great.
Yeah, that's next.
Fabulous. Let's do it. It's out already?
Okay. It's out already.
Amazing. Can't wait.
Yeah, The Love Elixir of Augusta Stern. For those reading along, we're reading it. Available in hardcover, audio, Kindle.
Great.
I can't wait.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah.
We said it at the same time. Awesome.
Great.
So I feel like similar to, we'll see, we'll get to talk about it, but I feel like there's obviously romance, but there's also going to be like a lot of the other stuff.
Great. I like the other stuff.
Yeah, I like the other stuff too. Okay, this was fun.
Yeah.
Okay, Hanukkah Erotica is produced by William Levin. Check us out on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. Leave us a review. Anywhere you listen, leave us a review.
Right.
Yeah.
Give us stars.
Give us stars. Rate us 5 stars. The most amount of stars you can rate.
Yes.
And Hanukkah Erotica Book Club is brought to you by Hanukkah Pong, available on newishtraditions.com. 20% off with promo code Hanukkah Erotica. HANUKKAHEROTICA.
Yes.
Shavua Tov.
Love it. Shavua Tov.
Except if you're listening, it might be a Shabbat Shalom for you.
Yeah, whatever it is. We wish it to you.
We do. Bye.
Bye. Bye.